You're listening to Last Word Radio, where you get the last word.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. This is August the 27th, 2019. With you today is myself, Carl, and as always, Stevie Nick.
Carl, are you a conspiracy theorist?
I can be, for sure. There are some that if it makes sense, I'm not just going to do it just because.
Right. You follow like the logic through conspiracies.
Yeah, like I'll go, there's some, and I won't. Most of them like have a political bent to them. So,
right.
Like, I won't get too, but like I don't subscribe to the one about the moon landing. I think we probably landed on the moon.
No, we definitely landed. It's not probably. They went to the moon. I probably shouldn't have opened the episode with conspiracy theories because that one makes me angry.
Apparently, yeah.
Also, the Earth is round.
I do know that the Earth is round. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why that's true. Well, I mean, we saw it when we went to the moon. We looked back and saw that it's round. So
yeah, and then when we started going into space, we saw that the moon is also round.
Yeah,
and we said, "Hey, let's go there." So we did. End of story.
And then we went there, realized there's no reason to go back, so we just stopped going there.
It's true. And now they're like, "Hey, let's go back," and it's going to take like 5 years or something. How could it take so long? We've already been. How hard?
Well, Nick, that's the conspiracy theory. If I'm playing devil's advocate, it's like, well, if we've already been, it shouldn't take so long to get there the second time.
Oh, Carl, you're lucky we're on a hockey podcast.
Am I? Anyways, what?
Okay, so right, I was just thinking, like, oh boy, where was I going with that? Why did it open that can of worms? So you put out a request for questions for our episode today.
Yeah, we're gonna do some Q&A. We're gonna talk briefly of some news. We're gonna do some Q&A, and we're gonna talk some hockey history.
Well, our friends at the This Is Adulting podcast sent me a tweet that said, "You need to check out my conspiracy theory about Connor McDavid." Well, consider my interest piqued. So I mosey on over to their profile and I find the conspiracy theory. This is their tweet from This Is Adulting, or at @is_adulting on Twitter. My fave conspiracy. The Oilers played in Vegas for the first time on McDavid's 21st birthday, right before the Oilers' 5-day break. Was this planned or a coincidence? My vote is it was 1,000% planned. Thoughts?
I mean, Connor McDavid brings the NHL a lot of money. However,
what kind of pull does he have?
I don't think that he could, or they would, be like, you know what, Connor, here we go. We're going to throw you a bone, go party in Vegas. Like, he can afford, I'm very close to Edmonton geographically. Even if it was at home, it's 4 or 5 hours. He could get a private jet to go there. He doesn't have to like hop on Air Canada and fly down. He's more than capable to very quickly get to Vegas. Like, he could be there before the next morning, play a game, finish, get out of there, get to the stadium or get to the airport by midnight at the latest. But get down there.
But he wouldn't have his whole team. Like, he wouldn't have all his boys with him to cover all the bills. Who's going to pay for the drinks, Carl?
Connor McDavid. Do you see how much money that guy makes?
Okay, but hear me out, because I think there is an alternate reality where this could have happened. Okay, there is one person who's in charge of making the NHL schedules, and I'm sure he's got a team of people, but there's one guy who's responsible.
I think it's a couple, is it not? I think it's a duo.
Are you messing with me right now?
No. This is 100% true. It's been this couple for years.
I thought it was just this one old dude who's been running it for years.
I think his wife also helps him.
Oh, well, easy solution then. They were his billet parents.
Oh, okay.
That's probably not true, but could be.
Conspiracy theory. I could see in a world why that would make sense. Also, if you listen to mainstream media right now, Connor McDavid has no friends on the Oilers, and so his boys would not be the team.
What? People are hating on Connor right now?
I mean, it's the off season, Nick. You're either talking about moon landings or Connor McDavid and Mitch Marner. Those are the only options right now.
What does Connor McDavid have to do to make people happy? Does he need to go to the moon and walk there and put an Edmonton Oilers flag on the moon?
When does his contract line up with the 5-year? Maybe that's what they're waiting for. Maybe that's why it's 5 years from now. They're waiting for his contract to be up.
Or they don't need to wait that long. The U.S. government's got a studio they could shoot it in right now.
Yeah, exactly. They'll get, who is it? Stanley Kubrick was the guy that directed the first one?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, get him to do the second.
Because there's another conspiracy. That guy's not dead yet. I don't know if that's actually a conspiracy. I made it up right now.
I was going to say, I do not know what Stanley Kubrick's up to these days.
I'm pretty sure he's not up at all.
No, is he?
I think so. He was an old guy.
Okay, well, you would know much better than me. So,
but they could get someone like Christopher Nolan to shoot the Connor McDavid moon landing.
Yeah, he died 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
You could get a Christopher Nolan moon landing would be way too like dramatic though. Like it would be very good, but we just need like a still shot.
Have you seen Connor McDavid's face? That guy could totally do drama.
Yeah. I don't. What would the Connor McDavid moon landing slogan be though? Just like, well, we're here.
Yeah, it was a good trip down. The boys played hard all the way on the trip across the stars, and we're gonna have a good trip back. Really like what Ken Holland did with the ship on the way here. It's real nice. Yeah, there's a few bumps along the way, but I think if we just shake it off and work hard together, then we'll make it through. Yeah, not sure we're gonna make it back. We lost several engines on the way here, but this is what we do. That's it. Well, Apollo 97. I like it. Let's make it. I mean, we'll talk to our friend Joshua. He can do documentaries. Maybe next is a mockumentary. I love it. Apollo 97, starring Connor Moon David. And there is the episode title right there. Yeah, and there's our open. Well, before we get to the rest of the show, let's remind everyone about the Alberta Podcast Network and the fine sponsor ATB. If you are looking to fund, let's say, a rocket to go to the moon and you need some money, maybe go to ATB, atb.com/listens. Tell them, I'm looking to build a rocket to go to the moon. Or I'm looking to start a movie company and I'm going to make a documentary called Apollo 97. Any of these are possibilities. I'm not certain that ATB would give you the funding for them. But you make a good case, you go to them, business, personal, anything that you're looking for, ATB is the greatest place to go for your banking. ATB.com, ATB.com/listens are where you should go. You seemed primed to say something. So no, I didn't want to take it in a whole other direction. you figured let's pump the brakes a little bit. Let's slow this down. We've got some news this week. We're going to get into one piece of news. We're going to a few of the other news-ish pieces came up during our questions. So let's start with a piece of news because a team signed signed. Got a new general manager this week. The Minnesota Wild. Yeah, so let's start there. Minnesota Wild and Bill Guerin. Mr. Guerin, the new general manager there. He's been around. He's been with a lot of teams since his, I guess not a lot of teams, but he's been certainly in front offices since his retirement. That's what I've heard, yes. That's what the Google says. Here's what I know about Bill Guerin. He played hockey professionally. He was an okay hockey player. He had pretty good stats.
long career.
Long career, yeah. And I know part of it was with Pittsburgh. I think he won the cup with Pittsburgh.
He won 4 Stanley Cups.
Bill Guerin won 4 Stanley Cups?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, he was...
not all with Pittsburgh.
No, I believe he won Pittsburgh. I want to say Boston.
Okay. I don't even remember him in Boston.
Anyway, yeah, he's won 4 of them.
Well, that's pretty much the extent of my Bill Guerin knowledge. I don't like. Is this a good move for Minnesota? I have no idea what this guy's done.
Not Boston. He won 2 New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, as a general manager, continue.
Is he qualified? I have no idea what his managerial successes are.
For sure. Yeah. The struggles when it comes to, as outsiders looking into the situation, as the assistant GM in Pittsburgh, obviously Pittsburgh has done well, but we kind of have to guess what his contribution is to that decision-making process. And
there's a lot of experienced folks running the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Right. Jim Rutherford knows his way around a front office.
Yeah.
And they've, won Stanley Cups before Bill Guerin got there. So in his time there, he's been the assistant GM. But what does give me a good hope, and this is something that was kind of the antithesis of the previous regime in Minnesota, as short as it was. He was reportedly, from all of what I've been able to see, was in charge of like building up the analytics team in Pittsburgh. And so you take that to Minnesota, and you can hope that he can do the same thing there, take what he's learned in Pittsburgh, apply it in Minnesota, and hopefully be successful.
It's interesting. It's very interesting. It's fun seeing all of these players that I watched through like the 90s and early 2000s now all running teams. And it's really interesting that they're all in charge of bringing analytics to the forefront of player evaluation, or maybe not in charge of it, but overseeing it, because these kinds of analytics were never used on them when they were playing. Absolutely.
Yeah. And to definitely experience that, because if you look at the list of GMs we have now, and this is of like recent, because there are GMs who were older ones, right?
Yep.
You've got Jason Botterill. He has played recently-ish.
Yep.
Sakic, Yzerman, Rob Blake.
Yep.
Who else do we got here? Ron Francis.
Yeah.
And now Bill Guerin. So what's that, 7 of 31? That's a large substantial.
And then if you go further back, you got Ken Holland, Jim Rutherford, Doug Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
And so, yeah, it is interesting the way that's going. Obviously, we've seen former players end up in coaching and management forever, right? Like you said, adding to that list. But the fact that players are making this push for the analytics side of things, when it often has this appearance that the players are against it, right? Like it's like the players are super pro eye test, and management is the one that's like begrudgingly pushing them, but they just want to win, and they see that adding an extra angle and an extra lens to look at things helps.
100%. You should use every tool at your disposal to try to win.
Yeah.
So, and that's how I see analytics anyways. It's not the be all end all, but it's certainly one of the tools in your box.
Exactly. It's like if you were racing to the moon and you needed to film it in a studio so you could beat the Russians, you should do that. That's a tool in your box. Don't not take advantage of that.
Or you could just actually go to the moon.
Or you could actually go to the moon, right? Like you've got many tools at your disposal. Use all of them. That's what's going on here.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That being said, this guy's got his work cut out for him in Minnesota.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the previous management team there has left him a pile of work in an incredibly tough division.
Yeah.
Like, in looking at it, we've got teams like, well, you've got obviously the reigning Stanley Cup champions. You've got Dallas Stars, who are going to get better. I I would think Chicago's going to be better than they were last year. Nashville, still going to be good. Winnipeg's probably going to take a step back.
A little bit, but they'll still be good.
Colorado.
Who?
The Colorado Avalanche. They're a pretty good team. And,
yeah.
And then there's another team. Oh, the Wild. They're the last team. And so in that list, like to me, they're the 7th best team in that division.
Yeah,
it's probably not that close. So
agreed.
Lots of work to do, but take it slow. And if you're willing to build that up, maybe give this one more than a year.
Yeah, I would think so. Maybe give it. Let me count the years left on Zach Parise's contract. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years.
Okay, 6 more. Wow, 6 years. Jeez, because
that's $7.5 million.
Him and Ryan Suter have the same length left. So
yeah,
yikes! It's going to be a long half dozen in Minnesota.
Hang in there, Wild fans.
It's coming. Let's go to kind of the rest of the news is in some of our questions. So do we want to get to questions first? Because we also have some hockey history. Kind of what is likely our second last Triple H of the offseason. A good sign of the end of the offseason. Which one do you want to do first?
I feel like we should... First of all, I feel like we should have talked about this before. Second of all, I think we should do hockey history because I like the idea of finishing on questions.
I like that idea too. Let's do it. Okay. The hockey history of the week. Triple H.
Time to play the game.
So we were looking this week. We had a big old list that we made at the start of the offseason and shockingly stayed to plan. A lot of those topics on there we have.
We did well.
Yeah. And one of them on the list kind of inspired this week's hockey history. And just on the list of topics we had, and I think this came from a listener, it just said Peter Chiarelli, which is good. I like that.
No other context.
No,
Peter Chiarelli.
No context was given when I wrote that list up. I just wrote Peter Chiarelli, which then led to the topic of some miscues. So today's is historic mistakes in the NHL.
I like that. Historic mistakes. Sounds good.
Yeah. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk like some on ice, some management, and just like general things that have happened in the history of the NHL. So let's get started. Nick, what is one of your mistakes that you have for us today?
I'm just going to get this out of the way. It's an on ice mistake, and it's the Patrik Stefan missing the empty net with 4 seconds left in the game. And the Edmonton Oilers picking up the puck. I believe it was Alish Hemsky. And in those 4 seconds, scoring to tie the game against the Dallas Stars.
And correct me if I'm wrong, was that not a playoff game?
Oh, that I don't know.
I do believe that was in the playoffs, adding to that.
You know what? It would make sense because the clip that I've seen of that blooper or whatever, Ray Ferraro is the color analyst on that broadcast, and he just goes nuts. He's like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. I can't believe he should be embarrassed with himself. Like, it was, he roasted him pretty hard.
Yeah. And good reason. It was not a playoff game. That was in January. So I just seem to recall I don't know why I thought it was, but.
Well, Ray Ferraro still roasted him pretty hard.
Certainly.
I believe his former teammate, actually.
Oh, yeah. Those former Thrashers really did not bond together very well. So
how could they? They didn't even have anywhere to practice.
No. But it is certainly, in my mind, one of the ultimate mistakes in NHL history.
Oh, yeah. It's the first thing that popped into my head.
Yeah. For me, an on-ice mistake, and there's a one that I want to think of, and then there's the one that I don't want to think of. We'll go to the one that I don't want to think of. Let's go to the more recent one.
Okay.
And it's not like a historic one, but it just kind of like summarizes the era, and it goes back I believe it was even last season, Chris Russell taking the aggressive slap shot into his own net from the hash marks. That was a very, very good on ice mistake that happened there. And
I love own goals.
Summarizes the Oilers of that time.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime a defenseman scores on his own net is good. It happens in our beer league all the time.
Yeah. How many times have you scored on your own goalie?
Never. I would never. Not me, Carl.
Okay.
Everyone else does.
You see other people do it in your beer league all the time.
There's actually one guy on our team. We've got a running count on him. He's got like 3 goals on the season. They're all in our own net.
I was going to say, does he have more on his own team than the others?
Yes.
Oof. Well,
yes.
I'm glad that you keep letting him lace it up with you. That's nice.
It's not like we're paying him $1.5 million.
Yeah, it's not like you picked him first overall.
Exactly.
Well,
okay, what's your other one?
The one that's more, and there's not. Oh, I guess there is a trickle down from it. And this is one that you will greatly enjoy, Nick. The Patrik Waugh Statue of Liberty save.
Oh yes.
As an Avalanche fan, very disappointed. And I tried to think, like, is this just Avalanche bias that this is the one that comes into my head? But this one was, a big mistake. Obviously, big save from Waugh. Lifts the hand up in the air, and the puck comes trickling down and into the net.
Yep. And that was a playoff game.
That was a playoff game, and that led to a loss in the series.
Is that the game that they lost like 7-1, or was that the game before that?
That was the game before that, if I recall correctly.
And so he did Statue of Liberty, dropped the puck, they scored, and then the next game was an elimination game, and they lost like 7-1 or something like that.
Yeah, and that was essentially the end of the Avalanche reign of terror.
Yes.
Not a good look, not a good way to go out by any means.
No. But Patrik Waugh, the most like cocky, arrogant goalie out there, celebrating like that and then dropping it. It was beautiful. Beautiful.
I figured you would enjoy.
I loved it.
That memory.
Okay, I got one more on ice one, which is like kind of a freak accident one, and it just popped into my head right now. Remember Ziggy Palffy? I think it was Ziggy Palffy. He's in the corner getting a puck. I think he played for the New York Islanders at the time. And I don't know who the other player was, but he fell over and his feet shot into the air. And Palffy was not wearing a neck guard, and the skate like sliced his throat.
Yeah. That took a turn.
Pretty big mistake.
Yeah. So he just fell and cut.
Yeah. I can't remember. I just remember being a kid and like losing the color in my face, like feeling weak because of seeing the blood and where it was coming from.
Yeah, that's not good. That is not a good one.
Oh, I still get the shivers thinking about it.
Yeah. So here's one of mine, and it falls into the category of like we kind of had an other category as well.
Yeah.
And so this kind of falls into like my other, but it's also like based on an on ice thing. So it starts on ice and then goes off ice. And this one goes back to before we had offside reviewable, right? There was no review in the NHL.
Okay.
Recall that Matt Duchene was called offside. Or sorry, not offside.
He was not called offside.
Not called offside while being approximately 6 to 7 feet offside.
Yep.
Got the pass, was there. And that really was the call that pushed us into this current era of onside reviews.
That was pretty much the one, yeah.
And so to me, that mistake on the ice led to the decisions off the ice, where now we have this very black and white ruling, which I think is good.
Yeah.
But it was what it was created. The rule was created to stop just blatant mistakes like we have now. Whereas now we're trying to use a GoPro from across the ice to do reviews on if someone's skate was or wasn't on the ice. And so things like that. And I think now we're seeing other mistakes happening because of that, right? Was there an onside? Was the guy onside, offside? Who knows? How can we tell? Let's 15 minutes and do that. And I think it's a mistake the way the NHL officiating teams have gone about it in kind of overcorrecting for the blown call on the ice there.
Which we saw manifest itself again with the Avalanche in the playoffs this year, right? In a play that cost them a game that eventually cost them the series with Gabe Landeskog stepping off the ice.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that was caught on a review, was it not?
Yes, it was. And that got into another world of questions on were they, won't they, what's happening.
Right.
And I think we'll continue to see that unless there are some big changes made in the realm of reviews. And we have seen that there will be some this year, which I'm in favor of.
Yeah, and we've talked about it in the past too. Different ways they can go about it. Speaking of referees and not being able to review, Kerry Fraser missing the high stick in '93. It's a pretty big mistake.
Yeah, that's a pretty big one.
Pretty big mistake. Closest the Leafs came to winning the cup in I don't know how long, a long time. So
if you are, because one that similarly was on my mind was 2004, the Flames with Martin Gélina's no goal.
Yep.
Flames fans still believe that they won the Stanley Cup that year. In your mind, like Leafs win that cup? If that's not the case?
No.
Okay.
No, but we would still be talking about that Stanley Cup final series today had it happened, because it would have been Toronto versus Montreal.
Yeah, which is unfortunately impossible now.
It's impossible now. Yeah, that would have been an amazing series, but yeah, I still think the Canadians win that year.
Yeah. So what else? Do you have any other historic mistakes that come to mind?
Brett Hull's foot in the crease.
Oof. That's another officiating fun little there.
And his foot was in the crease. That was the rule.
It was.
But the confetti had already started to fall.
It was very blatant, right?
Yeah.
And in a world where there was less reviews and reviewable things happening there. Yeah.
It's a rough one, eh?
It is. To think about that and to, you think back, and for me, that's a big moment of it is the biggest moment in Brett Hull's career.
Yep.
And it's marred by that. I mean, obviously, it should.
Yeah. There will always be an asterisk on that one. Yeah. But speaking of Brett Hull, I've got a couple managerial mistakes that kind of relate to each other.
Okay.
They're unrelated, but they do relate. So 1988, Brett Hull is traded from the Calgary Flames to the St. Louis Blues. He had already scored 25 goals in that season when he was traded. And he was traded for two or three guys who never gave the Flames more than like 10 goals and 27 points. So like the Flames did go on to win the cup the next year, but losing Brett Hull, who ended up being one of the greatest goal scorers ever in NHL history, for basically a bag of pucks, pretty big mistake in my eyes.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Because Brett Hull went on to score an average of 50 goals per season in his career. I'm reading that right now.
Like the fact that when you look up Brett Hull trade on Google, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's like worst trades in Flame history, the worst trades in NHL history. Looking back at the 5 worst trades in NHL history, it's here. This is it.
It's pretty bad. Yeah. And then a few years later, I think in like 1990 or 1991, the Detroit Red Wings traded Adam Oates to the St. Louis Blues. And Adam Oates at the time he was like a first overall pick, I think, or like he was up there. And he went on to be a great NHL player, but putting him beside Brett Hull elevated Brett Hull's game that much more. And Hull had something like 3 70-plus point seasons. And then when Oates was then traded off of St. Louis, Hull never had another 70-point season. So that was a big mistake on Detroit's managerial side, which was awful in those days.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not a good one. But I mean, they did. He was traded for Bernie Federko. Certainly no slouch in his day, but
no. But I don't think the output was equal from both of those players.
No,
from that point forward,
that was end of career Federko.
Yes,
he played one season and then retired. When I look at biggest mistakes, and certainly front offices are going to make terrible trades, right? But then I also look at terrible drafting.
Okay.
Right. And we already talked about one, Patrik Stefan, right?
Yep.
1999 first overall pick. And the list after that is a very good collection of first overall picks, right? You had him afterwards, and I know his career is not what it should or could have been, but I actually think right after him, Rick DiPietro was picked.
Yes. And
certainly the contract he got from the Islanders, bad. His injury troubles, bad. He wasn't as bad of a goalie as I remember him being, though. Like, when you go back and actually see how he got to that, he was a fine enough goalie.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, granted, don't hand out a 15-year contract to anyone, let alone a goaltender.
Right.
That's a mistake.
That was mistake number one that the Islanders made.
Yeah. So if we're going down mistake road, that's one of them.
Yeah.
And certainly we could pick not any number of organizations. We could pick a collection of organizations and just go through front office mistakes that they did, right?
Yep.
And usually it's a lot of these teams that are picking first overall, shockingly.
Yep.
But after that, we got Kovalchuk, Rick Nash, Marc-Andre Fleury, Ovi, Crosby, Eric Johnson, Patrick Kane, Stamkos, Tavares, Hall, Nugent Hopkins, and then Nail Yakupov. So that begs the question for me. 13 years apart, which one was a bigger mistake to take first overall? Patrik Stefan or Nail Yakupov?
Probably Nail Yakupov.
So, Patrik Stefan came to the Thrashers. His first season there, 20 points. Sorry, 25 points.
In the whole season? He played a full season?
72 games, 25 points. His NHL high was 40 points with the Thrashers. He played half a season with the Dallas Stars.
Yeah.
Gave up that goal to the Oilers and was never seen from in the NHL again. So that's Patrik Stefan. In his NHL career, he had played somehow 455 games, a total of 188 points. Which you can certainly not blame a guy for, 188 points should get you an NHL career, right? He's still putting up, 10 odd goals a season. Nail Yakupov, on the other hand, a much shorter career, 350 NHL games, 136 points. His peak, he started quite high, 31 points, but 17 goals. His goal total, much higher than Patrik Stefan's. On a per game basis, they ended up 2 goals apart. Patrik Stefan 64, Nail 62, but in 100 less games. So, to me, I think that if you look at the rest of the draft, which I guess that could be the way of looking at biggest mistake, right? If you look at the rest of the draft and who could have been taken after them, the Atlanta Thrashers passed over both of the Sedins to make that selection. And there was, After that, there actually was not. That was not a good draft year. There was not very many quality players that came out of that draft. Like quite literally, if you go down the list, there's Ryan Miller is still in the NHL. I don't see anyone else on this list. We got, and I don't even think I count this one, but Henrik Zetterberg, right? 210th. I don't really count.
Say, like a 6th round pick or something.
So literally, it's like the Sedins, and that was all that was worth getting excited about in that draft.
Okay.
Fast forward to 2012, a similarly mediocre draft class.
Sure.
After Neil Yakupov, you had Ryan Murray going to the Jackets, Galchenyuk to the Habs, Griffin Reinhart. Now at number 5, we got one that you would enjoy, Morgan Riley.
Okay, yeah.
And then a little later is when you get into 11th overall, Philip Forsberg.
Yeah.
To the Capitals. Another famous mistake there, right? Being traded for Martin Erad.
Yeah.
Andrei Vasilevsky. He was a
first round pick, yeah.
From the Lightning. One that, and I don't count this. There are some who are like, well, the Red Wings could have had him because that was the first round pick in the Kyle Quincy trade. Doesn't count.
The Red Wings wouldn't have picked a goalie in the first round.
Right. They would have. Where was their first pick that year? They picked.
Not till a second.
Martin Fork. They picked a guy who doesn't even have vowels. That's
Martin Fork.
Martin, I believe it's pronounced Fork. It's an unsilent O.
It's a hidden O.
If
you just spread the F and R, you can find the O in there.
Yeah, it's just they smushed it together. So I don't know, if looking at the draft and seeing who else was available, I think Patrik Stefan over the Sedins was a much bigger mistake than Neil Yakupov over Morgan Riley.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Yes. Thanks. I don't know if I agree though.
Okay. So you're
I still think Neil Yakupov is a bigger mistake.
Okay. Well, that's allowed.
But I mean, if you're going to draft first overall 4 times in 5 years or whatever it is, you're going to miss on one of them.
Yeah. 4 out of 6. It's not
4 out of 6. Yeah.
Not a good ratio.
You're going to miss on one of them.
And even before that, there was not a lot. I mean, the Senators with Alexander Dag.
Yeah.
Not that great.
Yeah.
Roman Hamrlik had a long career, not fantastic, but the list of first overall picks pretty good in the NHL. So it is almost, knock on wood, a guarantee that player is going to be good.
Almost.
Good news, New Jersey Devils. You have 2 of them. Don't mess it up.
Just hopefully you don't get 2 more in the next 4 years.
Yeah, hopefully you don't get 4 to 6 because we know where that leads.
Yeah, it's not good.
No. Well, there's been any other mistakes you got?
No, but just to add on to your Rick DiPietro one, the Islanders actually traded away Roberto Luongo because they decided to go with Rick DiPietro as their starting goalie.
Another mistake. And they got, I believe it was what? Oli Jokinen traded for Luongo, or was he traded away with him? I think it was Luongo and Oli Jokinen. Got back Mark Parrish, I believe.
That sounds right. They definitely sent Jokinen to Florida.
Yeah. Well, there we go. That ends this round of Triple H.
The game is over. We've never had to wrap that up before.
No, we've never wrapped it up with a song, but you did well put on the spot. So
thank you.
This brings us to our Q&A section. We like to do this, every few months, see what is on your mind, and we'll share our thoughts with you. So let's start. I like to put out, we'll answer your questions about hockey. We got way too many soccer questions today. Do you know anything about soccer, Nick?
You can't touch the ball with your hands.
No, that's called a handball.
That's about the extent of my soccer knowledge.
Okay. So we'll skip those, but thank you to those who sent in soccer questions.
I can try to answer them if you want.
Do you know? See, this is what tricked me. Here's one. Who do I captain next week? Alba or Kane? And I was like, oh, this is an actual hockey question. Someone named Kane. Apparently, there's more than just Evander and Patrick out there. And I don't even know Auba. How do you say that?
Oba. I don't know.
Who would you pick? Oba or Kane?
I mean, without having an idea of their skill sets, I have to lean on what sounds better. And to me, Captain Cook has a good alliteration, strong captain name.
That's great. It's actually Kane, though.
Yeah, Kane, Captain Kane.
You said Captain Cook, which I was like,
I got Breaking Bad on my mind.
Wait, this wasn't a question. How excited are you for that movie announcement?
That movie looks awesome. I'm so down to see what happened to Jesse Pinkman.
Especially Thanksgiving weekend. You're gonna
so close.
Grab a pumpkin pie, sit down, watch the movie. Yeah,
watch Captain Cook. What happens to him?
Yeah.
Anyways, Captain Kane. That's who I'd go with.
Okay. Next soccer question. Is it too early in the season to play my bench boost?
I mean, considering the soccer season only started 6 or 7 weeks ago and there's another 11 to 12 left, I'd say, yeah, it's a little early. I'd probably wait till like the 3/4 mark. But hey, man, I don't want to tell you how to manage your team. You should play your bench boost whenever your gut tells you to.
See, I personally think it's never too early to bench boost. You just boost and then ride that the entire rest of the season. So that's what I do.
You just, ride it all the way to the moon.
Just go, I mean, you got to hit the afterburners, and you have to get back. If you're not going to actually land on the moon, you need to do that to slingshot back around and land on Earth. So it's the only way you're getting home.
Yeah, so you got to do it at exactly the right time. You can't do it too early.
No. And so you should probably maybe do a few more calculations than just listening to us if you're boosting.
Yeah, agreed.
All right.
Solving soccer problems over here.
We've done it. Let's go. One question we got a question that's just for you, actually.
Oh.
What was your favorite Wings Cup victory?
Oh, man. They all have such great qualities. Not 2008. 2008, I would rank 4th.
Okay. Of the one, I assume you're only ranking ones you were cognizant of, right? Like aware of. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the 50s were great, but they certainly weren't my favorite cup winning teams.
My favorite part about the 2008 one was the Marian Hossa lines running through that. That was nice.
Love it. The cup chasing Hossa. But 2008 was Nick Lidstrom was the first European-born captain to win the cup. 2002 was a great year. I'd probably rank that my second favorite just because of all the Hall of Famers that were on that team. And it was also the year that Steve Yzerman won the Conn Smythe Trophy. I'd probably rank 1998 third, but that one came with a lot of emotion because the whole team came together and pulled through a huge win for Konstantinov after his accident, which leaves 1997 is my favorite. With Steve Yzerman at the helm, first cup win in 42 years. It was magic.
You never forget your first, Nick.
You never forget your first. That is what they say.
I've heard that, and that's how you feel about Stanley Cup wins. That's what they're talking about, right? Is Stanley Cup. So
that's right.
There we go. Let's go. We got some food related questions in here.
Okay.
Favorite barbecue recipe or like favorite thing to barbecue? I'll start this one.
Yes, go for it.
You get to go with yours. If I'm barbecuing like on a grill, I'm a big fan of chicken. And like just some sauce. I love grilling like I'll grill my veggies on the side. I've got one of those like grilling racks for vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
For that, big fan of just like olive oil and crushed red pepper. Put that on there. Go. Something that's good, and I know like it's not a popular opinion. Well, I guess it maybe it's jumped the shark a little bit, but
Okay.
I enjoy actually grilled kale.
Okay.
I'll do that with lemon juice and olive oil. Going back to the meats, can't go wrong with a steak. But my favorite thing to do of all time, and I kind of put this in the same realm as barbecue, but smoking meat is my favorite way to do it. And I'm a big fan of, if I'm doing it myself, ribs are a good choice. It's hard to go wrong with that. For that, I like to go some sauce on it and some mustard. And otherwise, brisket is my favorite thing to eat. And doing that up there, I'll probably just do, I'm trying to think of what I do for that. I think it's just spice. And I've got like a rub that I put on it, smoke it, and then add sauce after. So there we go. Those are my favorite things.
I'm so hungry right now.
I have not eaten dinner yet, so
That sounds delicious. When you barbecue chicken, do you marinate the chicken first?
I should marinate more than I do, which is like almost never.
Right. So you just throw chicken breasts on the grill.
Yeah, if I'm going to, I'll season them with like something beforehand. I'm not opposed to barbecue sauce on my chicken either.
Yeah.
So I like sauce them beforehand. One thing that's a good trick, if you are one to do seasoning, either like, because there's times where you'll just like, when you barbecue, do you just like throw it on, like spices on as you put it on the barbecue?
No, I would normally season it before.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't do it while it's on the grill.
Okay. So there's like a sweet spot, and it obviously depends on the meat and et cetera, of how much beforehand.
Yeah.
It's actually, if you do it like 5 or so minutes before, you're going to dry your meat out a lot more than you would think.
Yeah.
What happens, you put the seasoning on and it sucks the water up into the seasoning, and you want to give it probably like 15, 20 minutes to get back into that meat. And so if you actually season it like 5 or so minutes before, you're better off to just do it when it goes onto the grill, because you're going to dry it out a lot more than you would otherwise. So
that's good to know. So when you do ribs, do you throw a dry rub on before?
yeah, if I'm doing ribs, I'll probably even do it the night before.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
doing that.
That's what I do too.
Yeah. And if I'm grilling or otherwise, and do not, I mean, it's fine, but don't boil your ribs and then put them in there. Just cook them straight.
What? Boil them? People boil
There are
ribs?
people out there who will boil their ribs and then put them on the barbecue to crisp them up.
So they cook it all the way through in boiling water first?
Yeah.
Why? What does that do?
It's
Just a way of cooking meat?
Yeah.
I wouldn't boil any meat.
Unless you're making a stew.
Well, yeah.
Already cooked somewhere else.
Yeah, it's already been cooked at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. People, that's the thing people do. Don't do it though, people.
Sounds gross.
So what's yours? What's your go-to?
On the grill, I mean, I love eating steak personally, but my favorite thing to like when we go to the cottage and grill, ribs. I love doing ribs. I throw the dry rub on the day before, and then because we don't have a smoker, I wrap it in tin foil and leave some space in there and throw it on the grill for 45 minutes. And then I take the tin foil off, throw sauce on there, normally homemade sauce, and grill it for another 15 minutes or so.
Yeah. You can actually get little smoker boxes for barbecues too. So that which is nice. So you still get the flavor of wood on the grill.
I'll have to try that.
Yeah, those are good. Another question: Hawkins cheesies or cheese puffs?
I don't know what Hawkins cheesies are.
Those are crunchy ones, which Hawkins are my favorite. Those are my go-tos. So I'm going Hawkins all the way. I don't if I'm offered the crispy the puffy Cheetos, I might not even eat them at all.
No, see, I'd probably go the puffy Cheetos.
Really?
I like the texture on those.
Okay.
But it's kind of a mood thing. Like sometimes I'm in the mood for something crunchier.
Yeah. I'm always like, I like the crunch with them. There we go. So we can simply share because we don't actually have to share, which is great.
There you go. Perfect.
So when Nick and I come to your house to watch the games, bring both. Because
You don't-
won't be bringing.
No, and you don't want to disappoint one of us.
No, one of us will be quite sad. Going back to one of the other questions, favorite moment in hockey history. I know we've talked about favorite cup moment, and he's like suggests like one that gives you chills every time you see it, and one that I get great joy over to this day is the second Avalanche Stanley Cup, and seeing Joe Sakic just straight away give that cup to Ray Bourque gives me chills every time.
Yeah, that one jumped to the top of my mind too. Is Ray Bourque getting that Stanley Cup? So that was the first one that jumped to my mind. What other chills moment? The golden goal.
The golden goal is a great one.
Was one.
And actually, that's one someone else asked. More historic Olympic hockey moment, the golden goal or the miracle on ice?
Oh. It's hard. You're asking two Canadians. But honestly, objectively speaking, I think it's the miracle on ice.
I think so too. Because it, like, impact, especially, if you're thinking of like historic impact, miracle on ice is not even close to the golden goal. It was just like, golden goal felt great. But
Yeah.
miracle on ice had a very significant impact.
Yeah, and there was a lot going on in the world. I mean, we've covered the Russian impact on hockey the last few weeks, but there's a lot going on that made that a very important game.
Absolutely. Here we go. This is one that I have a very definitive answer for. Letterkenny or Trailer Park Boys?
What's your or do you want me to go first?
It's Letterkenny, and it's not. I actually don't like the Trailer Park Boys.
Come on, it's Trailer Park Boys.
I don't know what it is about them. Like I just don't enjoy it.
I love the early seasons of Trailer Park Boys when it's just low quality, mostly improv, terrible television, essentially.
Maybe I'll have to go give it a second try. Maybe that's my issue.
The characters are so great, and all of those actors just own those characters. And I have so much respect for, in later years, when they go out in public and people come and talk to them, they are always just in character all the time.
Yeah.
I remember being in Newfoundland at George Street Festival, and we didn't run into, but he was at the same place, Julian from Trailer Park Boys. And like, this is just a guy who's going to a music festival, but he still had the black short sleeve shirt on. He had his rum and coke in his hand, and everyone who went up and talked to him, he addressed them in character.
That's good. I mean, at this point, do you think that just is who he is?
Yeah, I think so.
It's not even a character at this point. That's just who they are.
How could you drink that much rum and coke, though? But it's funny that question came up because I was scrolling through Crave TV the other day and saw Letterkenny on there, and the thought literally popped into my head that Letterkenny is just the new generation of Trailer Park Boys.
It is very similar. I don't know what it is. I should give Trailer Park Boys another, because that's on the Netflix, I believe. So yeah,
I think so.
I should give it a shot. But here we go. This is one that was news related. Yeah, you seemed confused.
Wait, we're talking about hockey again?
We're going to go back to hockey.
Okay.
Who is wrong in the Jesse Puljujarvi drama? But here's the first question. This is my question to you, Nick. How do you spell Puljujarvi?
P-U L
Yeah.
J U
Uh-huh.
J
Yeah.
Q&amp.
Wow, you nailed it.
Did I get it?
You got it 100%.
Yes.
Wow, good for you.
Thanks. Where's he from? Finland.
Finland. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where he is going to be now. He has signed a contract heading over to play Finland. He does have an out clause, I think December 1st, rather. If he signs an NHL contract before that point, he can return to the NHL.
So is he not under contract right now?
He is a restricted free agent.
Okay.
And you may have heard there's a number of those that have not signed.
There are. Another week has passed and there's still no signing.
Mikko Rantanen signed a contract, or is in Finland Norway rather, skating.
Yeah, you said that today. That one I didn't know about. But he hasn't signed a deal out there. He's just practicing.
Yeah. I mean, he apparently there's still like very little progress with the Avalanche. So we'll see what happens there. Puljujarvi not living up to the hype of his draft position. But still quite young in his development. I think it's too early to write him off. But with the question being who is wrong, what do you think should be happening there? Because he's chosen to go somewhere else. He says he doesn't want to play with the Oilers. He wants somewhere else. Who's wrong, or is someone?
Well, I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, why does somebody have to be wrong in this situation? I think it's a tough spot for both parties to be in. He was a third overall pick? Fourth?
Yeah, that sounds right. Third.
And hasn't lived up to the hype. But the instability with that team on their coaching staff and management staff has not been very fair to him, I don't think. Treating him kind of like a yo-yo going up and down between the AHL and the NHL. More
like Jesse Puljujarvi.
Okay. I knew you were doing it, but I wasn't sure where you were gonna
put the
Yo-Yarvi. Jesse Yo-Yarvi.
That would have been better.
Anyways, I don't know. I don't know if anyone's wrong. I think that he wants out, and they haven't done fairly by him the last few years, so I think they should just trade him. And I know that everyone keeps saying Ken Holland is going to make sure he gets full value for him, but what do you think his value is at this point? Because if his value is not that high, or if his value is, if you're looking for a return that you get for a third overall pick, then he should be playing on your roster if that's how you value him.
Right. You should be putting him. I mean, I don't understand why they haven't just shoved him on McDavid's wing.
Right.
And Dreisaitled him to greatness.
At least give him that confidence boost.
Right. Because that's the thing, right? What does him going to Finland do for him? It gives him consistent playing time. He's going to get top minutes over there. So he's going to get the time. That's the biggest thing this year. He saw his minutes, his second season in the league, he was playing 13 minutes. That dropped down to 12 this season. So he's getting less time. He's playing in less games. Only 46 games in the NHL this season compared to 65 the year before. Now, granted, new management, new coaches, et cetera, there's more opportunity for him potentially with this team, but he has to prove it, right? And I think that with what we've seen, he does need to be able to fix things in his game, absolutely. I'm not sure going to Finland is going to be the fix for that. And what does that show? If he goes over there and has a great season, the Oilers are going to sign him. He'll end up there. He'll stay. If he doesn't, then he's just done. Like I fully understand why the Oilers aren't moving him because, like you said, value's low. You're not going to get much for him. And anyone's taking a chance on him. So I understand why the Oilers are willing to hold on to him. I also understand he has every right to want to go somewhere else. And this is his way to do it. I don't think anyone's wrong. I just think that there's a need for him to try to get out of a situation he doesn't like, and this is what he sees as the best way forward.
But you're playing on, halfway around the world against lesser competition. Like that to me is not a way to boost your value in the NHL. And no matter who starts scouting him or looks at trading him, he's going to be seen as a project.
Absolutely.
Which, in my opinion, keeps his value on the lower end.
Yeah.
I just feel if they think that his value should be or could be higher, then they need to give him the opportunity or play him to help him get there.
The problem is the team that he has the greatest value to is the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah.
And so if he's going to turn things around, it has to be with them for it to look good. So
yeah. So I guess the question then is, how do you convince him to stay?
Right. And that's just, I guess, pay him. I'm sure there's a number where he would show up in Edmonton.
Yeah. It's probably not even that much.
No. Some big news in the world of sports this week. I know you're not a big NFL fan, but we saw Andrew Luck retire at the age of 29 years old.
Yeah.
A bunch of injuries, and he just, he was just kind of taking a toll on him, and he was ready to not do that some more.
So how many seasons did he play?
He had, I believe that he was entering his 8th season.
Okay.
Last year, injuries led to him not really doing a whole lot. And so Andrew Luck did not play. And the question is, do you see something like that happening in the NHL in the next 3 seasons?
As in a younger player retiring due to injury?
Yeah, so if we say Andrew Luck's 26 right now, or 29,
yeah,
like someone in the 26, 27 range, that you could see them not playing, retiring early because of injuries, because of whatever may be.
Yeah, I could see it happening.
Is there someone that you think of when it comes to that?
Oh, you want a specific player? Not really that I can think of off the top of my head who's had these kinds of injuries. I mean, you even look at someone like, I can't remember the guy's name, that goalie who played for Minnesota, who I believe had, I can't remember what the disease was that he had, and he came back and played.
Josh Harding with MS?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive. But I don't know. I can't think of anyone who's out there right now who's having these kinds of problems. Can you?
Not off the top of my head, because a lot of times, you don't get to that level of success while having injuries, right? Like he missed, it wasn't last season, it was 2017. He missed the entire season.
Yeah.
Injuries. And you don't see it that often where you can, but absolutely I could see you having, especially as more and more comes out with injuries, I could see a guy who has, a couple of concussions retiring early. He's not as young, but go back a bit. Jeff Skinner has a history of concussions. I could see him,
Yeah.
You get another one, you hang it up. It's not important to me. I would rather have this. We saw even, I think and he wasn't super young, but younger than usual. Dale Earnhardt Jr. retired because he had gotten a concussion, retired. And he was like, I had a big hit. I don't want another one of these. I want to be able to raise a family and have a life outside of this after I'm done. So he hung it up early, and seen, there was other drivers who did the same. So I would not be surprised at all to see this happen.
Yeah. And I think we're probably going to see it more and more as the year goes on, as, the research gets done and players are more educated on the long-term effects of some of these injuries. But also a lot of players are taking the college route now too, and getting an education and setting themselves up for a career post their professional sports career. And a lot of guys, they're smart. They realize that career is going to be the long one, and you don't want to risk that. And like you said, raising a family and everything too. It's not worth it.
Not at all. So, and yeah, same thing. Andrew Luck, he went to Stanford, graduated, a lot of the things that you don't see professional athletes do all the time, with a degree in architectural design. So like, there's, a lot of very smart athletes out there, and they realize they can use that afterwards. Who knows what he's going to do? Maybe he'll be designing the Colts next stadium instead of building the championship for them.
Yeah.
I mean, he could still be under contract. You'll pay him a lot less to build the stadium for you.
It's true.
Couple more questions here. Let's kind of go through them. I think we've covered this on the show before, maybe. I know I've told a similar story. We got, why don't you two cheer for the hometown teams where you live? So you live in Toronto.
Fair question.
You live in Toronto, cheer for the Wings. I live in Calgary and cheer for the Avalanche. I'll start.
Okay.
I picked my team. I lived in Calgary, moved away when I would have been 6 or 7. Moved out east, lived in Halifax, lived in St. John's, and then moved back to Calgary. And so as a 8-year-old, I was a Flames fan. And then realized that in the 90s, the Flames were terrible. And it's not super fun cheering for a team that's on the other side of the country when they're awful. Right?
Yeah.
Games didn't start until what? It was a 3-hour time difference from here. So like a Flames game starts at 10 o'clock at night. As a kid of that age, I'm not staying up till 1 a.m. watching hockey games. So I'm not able to I mean, granted, I picked Colorado, which is insane. But still. And so I literally just like surfed from team to team and just like, is this like, I was a Coyotes fan for a bit, Flyer. Like I just like would randomly pick a team and be like, is this fun? And I just did it based on a team that was fun and enjoyable to cheer for. Sakic, Waugh, Forsberg, a lot of fun to watch, a lot of fun to cheer for. That's how I settled on it. I just picked a team that was fun and that I enjoyed, and I stuck with them.
I like that. I like when there are new fans to hockey and they're like, hey, what team should I cheer for?
Well, and as a kid, I feel like even adults should have this right to a degree.
100%.
But as a kid, like, what else is a 12, 13-year-old going to do? I'm going to do something that's fun.
Yeah. Pick a team that's going to win. That's fun to watch.
No one wants to cheer for the 1995 Calgary Flames.
That's true. So I was kind of the opposite. I actually do cheer for my hometown team, kind of, because I was born and raised in Windsor, Ontario, which is the border city to Detroit. So, I grew up only a couple kilometers away from Detroit.
Yeah, you could see the Joe from your city.
I could see the Joe, yeah, from where I lived. Not from my house, but from the city of Windsor. And, Hockey Night in Canada was a staple in my house. So we got a lot of exposure to the Leafs and the Habs. But the Red Wings were similar to the Avalanche. Like, they were so good at that time. So we'd go to games because it's a 10-minute drive across the border. And at that time, it was very easy to cross the border. And we'd go to multiple games a year just because the Wings were so fun to watch. Sergei Fedorov was on fire. Steve Yzerman was there. Brendan Shanahan showed up. Nick Lidstrom. And so I just followed the Red Wings all the time, and we got them on local TV. So that's how I watched regular season games and playoff games and playoff runs. And they got our local newspaper covered them. Our local news stations covered them. So I do consider that I am a fan of my hometown team. Now I moved to Toronto to go to school, and then I started working here, and that's how I ended up in Toronto as a Red Wings fan.
There we go. So Nick does cheer for his hometown team. I don't. I mean, granted, I did have I had the Mooseheads out there, Halifax Mooseheads, and I had at the time the St. John's Maple Leafs before the Marlies moved.
Right.
They were out there. And I had a great love for, it was not a great time for Leafs prospects.
Nope.
But when at the time I lived there, it was Alexei Ponikarovsky was a great former St. John's Maple Leafs. The captain of the team, longtime captain, Nathan Dempsey, had a real small taste of the NHL, as most AHL captains do.
Yep.
He was great. And also one of the most fun things I've ever done in hockey was they just opened a brand new arena there. And same as the NHL, you open a new arena, you get the All-Star game. And so I went to the AHL All-Star game, which was just as fun as an NHL All-Star game. You got the skills competition, you got the game, and it is as fun as, that family environment. When it was right around my birthday, me and a friend went, and it was a blast. I think I seem to recall DiPietro was in that All-Star game. I could be misremembering that.
Nice.
Now that I think about it, I am misremembering that, but it was fun. It was a good time watching that. So
AHL games in general are fun to go to. We go to a few per year here in Toronto.
Yeah,
it's great.
We got 3 more questions all in one tweet. It starts serious and then gets less serious as we go. So let's start with the serious question. Tips for anxiety. I don't know how you feel about things like that. I find if I'm feeling anxious, it's something that certainly I'm starting a new job this week, actually. And that's a real thing that can happen. So definitely got that going on. But when I am, personally, music is my go-to. So I'll put on something new, something good, listen to my music, and just, whether it's in the car, just find some time to be able to listen to some music that kind of relaxes me and distracts me from whatever worry I have going on.
So good question, first of all. The one thing that I do when it starts to sneak up on me is it's called rhythmic breathing. And it's basically just a deep breathing exercise for a couple minutes. And what it does is it helps kind of slow your heart rate and restore oxygen flow to your brain, which kind of calms you down. So it's just, I breathe in for 3 seconds and I exhale for 5. And I do that for like 60 seconds to 2 minutes. And I find that at the end of that, I feel like I'm in a better place and I can make a decision.
That's a great one too. Yeah. And definitely lots of tips. And I think kind of just finding what it is. Cause I had a lot of people who've said, a happy place. I don't know if you are one, and I've seen lots of people say that in the future, but I actually, when I first heard it, it was like, someone was like, yeah, I just go to my happy place. I'm like, but that's a thing that you can that people do. Like, I thought it was just like, oh, just go to your happy place. And they'll literally just like imagine themselves doing something. And so it personally doesn't work for me, but just trying different things and seeing what kind of helps you, relax it. And also depending on how severe things are, right? Like if it's an anxiety attack, that's a lot different than just, some general anxiety. So
yeah, for sure.
But we follow that up with 2 much less serious questions. Favorite cereal?
Fruit Loops.
Me too. So
hey, we agree on something.
Bring both cheesies, but bring Fruit Loops with you. And to follow it up, favorite snack, mine is easy. Chips and queso is my favorite snack.
Popcorn is my favorite.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Bonus points if it's movie theater popcorn.
Do you want to know my tip? So we do the homemade like popcorn.
Like stovetop?
No, we've got like a popcorn thing.
Yeah.
And you put oil in there.
Yeah.
We went to one of those like fancy oil stores, as I'm sure you have those out there.
Yeah. I do live in Toronto, Carl.
I've been to Toronto, but I wasn't shopping for oils.
I actually don't know if we have those. I'm sure they exist.
I'm sure you do. But there's an olive oil that's like tastes and smells like butter.
Yeah.
And so instead of putting butter, I use that, and then truffle salt, sprinkle that on it. That's my tip for
that sounds delicious.
Thing of popcorn.
That's an interesting oil. I normally use sunflower oil.
Interesting.
And I find that works quite nicely. But I do stovetop. Like I put the kernels in the pan or in the pot.
Yeah.
And pop them that way.
Well, there we go. There it is. Thank you for your questions, everyone. It was a lot of fun to see what you had, and who knows, we'll do this again.
Yeah. Did we hit an hour?
We're over an hour, Nick.
Of course we are. It's the summer.
It's the summer. Of course, there's an hour-long hockey podcast weekly.
Oh my God.
With only, we talked about moon landings, we talked about food, we talked about soccer.
Kind of.
I don't know. There were some very helpful tips about bench use and Captain Cook. So that's right. We talked about Breaking Bad. Oh wait, there was one last question. Where is it here? Is the Triple Crown line underappreciated? And so this fits in with the hockey theme of our summer. Triple Crown line, for those who do not know, let's go in the way, way back machine to the Los Angeles Kings that had who was on it. And this speaks to the...
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Los Angeles, well, so then yes. They must be underappreciated.
Well, who's on it?
It was Marcel Dion and I don't recall the rest of them. Marcel Dion is the one that I remember.
What year was this?
It would have been like 1979, I want to say.
Oh, that's that's way back.
Yeah, we're going way, way back.
Take it way back. The Triple Crown line, Los Angeles Kings, 1970s and 1980s. Dave Taylor, Charlie Simmer, and Marcel Dion.
There we go. Yes, I remember 1/3 of them.
Yeah, I don't know who the other two are.
Half of us remembered 1/3 of the line when originally mentioned.
Half of us knew what this line was.
Half of us had heard of the line and also knew only 1/3 of them. So yes, I would say they are underappreciated.
Oh, I found a Wikipedia page for list of ice hockey line nicknames. This is going to be in an episode sometime.
Okay, well, we'll bookmark that one for sure.
Yeah.
Nick, if you were off, the summer's winding down. We're starting to get, some NFL games happening.
Yep.
We're starting to do things as we transition back into our regular routines. I know summer kind of messes with all that, but sports are happening. You've got some fall concerts, festival season's over. Bands are going back on tour. If you're looking for tickets to something, head over to seatgiant.ca. Should be your home for all things tickets. Use promo code APN for 5% off, which is fantastic. You do not want to miss that. So head on over there. You support Seat Giant, you support the Alberta Podcast Network, which are two things that we love to do. As well, head to the fourthlinepodcast.com. We'll be starting up our writing series previewing all 31 teams in the NHL through September. So 31 teams in 31 days. You can head to our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast. If you have some other questions, send them in. We might have some time next week. We should be wrapping up, if all goes according to plan, our hockey history series next week. And then we'll be getting into some preview stuff. We'll be looking at where are teams sitting this year. So we'll get into that.
Yeah, it's almost hockey time.
Almost camps are going to be opening up soon. September happens, and we go from there. And Nick, I made a promise to you last Monday that I would eat.
Oh yeah. Now here I am thinking up lyrics for the song.
So, without further ado, it's time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. I haven't sung this song for very long, but then I think about how Connor McDavid went to the moon.
Boom. Mic drop.
It was really bad. Nick makes this look way easier than it is.
Did you rhyme moon with long?
Nothing. Yeah.